Hi, my name's Adam and welcome to Acclimate Creations. Some of you might already know me from my music as Acclimate Hip Hop. Some of you might have found me from the Schizoaffective video that recently started to do some numbers on YouTube. Because of that, I've been wanting to kind of open up this channel a little bit to some more different talking points within the mental health sphere. I feel like I can kind of use this as, instead of just being Acclimate Hip Hop, I can use it as Acclimate Creations and kind of use different mediums of art to try to express different things. I've already talked about the Schizoaffective video in my last kind of talking points video that I've done. I only addressed one question on that video though, even though I went over some different things. I did want to go into a little bit more depth with it. In that video, I talked about triggers and prevention. And I talked about the fact that it was a representation of a psychosis state specifically, not so much just like a baseline for everybody. I can go a little bit deeper into that, but in this video I want to focus a little bit more on the community response and all the different questions and things that I saw within the comments. So for one, I just wanted to thank everybody who took the time to leave their stories and their family stories and, their experiences within the comments of that video. I thought it was really cool to see so many people able to relate. Obviously, on one end, it makes me happy to see somebody or so many different people that can relate to what I've experienced. On the other end, it makes me sad to see that so many people have gone through what I've gone through. And seeing all that condensed into one area can be intense and intimidating for a lot of people. But for me and for a lot of other people, it seemed to help to some extent. The comments have been overwhelming in a lot of different ways. I've seen so many different stories, so many different people pouring out their hearts. A lot of people that have had family members, boyfriends, girlfriends, parents, kids who have all experienced things like this, whether it's schizoaffective or schizophrenia. And I do want to point out real quick for everybody that was mentioning this, schizoaffective and schizophrenia are not the same thing. They're in the same family, but they are not the same thing. There are distinctive differences between them. Primarily the fact that schizoaffective is a combination of a psychotic disorder like schizophrenia, symptoms from a disorder like that, and symptoms from a mood disorder like something like bipolar. And it's not just like bipolar and schizophrenia put together. There's a lot of different aspects and factors that can go into that I can explain later. But I really am grateful for everybody that was able to, kind of come together and just build a community around something like that. So I want to kind of foster that and feed into that a little bit more. I also want to say that even though I did say it in the previous video, schizoaffective is a spectrum. All of mental health is a spectrum. It varies. It varies greatly from person to person. Like there could be millions of people who disagree with what was in that video, but then just for every person that out of those millions that disagree with it, there could be 3 people who do agree with it. And there was far more people in the comments that were saying that it was relatable to them than there was people that were saying that it wasn't. And both sides are valid. Like honestly, either way, if you're able to find anything in the video that is of valid to you or not, it doesn't really matter when it boils down to your personal experience because it's valid either way. And for anyone saying that my experience isn't valid, I'm sorry you feel that way, but I've lived with it for 25 years, and it is the way that it is. Alright, so let's dive into some of the questions, concerns, and just things that were discussed around the video and the comments in general. So a lot of people were asking about the accuracy of the video, not only from the perspective of people watching the video, but even accuracy from my perspective, in the sense of, did I have to symbolically represent anything in the video? Did I have to change anything that I would want to represent in a different way that is just not possible in this medium of like videos and audio? And I would say probably about 90% of the video is as accurate to my own experience as I could get it, with certain things just not necessarily conveying the same for everybody. For people that experience it, I feel like a lot of them saw the representation within when it completely clouds your vision and you can't necessarily see through it. That I don't feel like that was represented through the video as well as it could have been, honestly, just because it's not something that blinds you. It's not something that actually takes away your ability to see. It's more something that pulls your focus and your attention and your brain's processing in the visual and audio aspect. You tend to start processing things more from the delusion and hallucinations than you are from reality itself. You still have the ability to see and to process other things, but there's so much visual and auditory static and distortions that are happening to the point where it becomes harder to distinguish the difference between reality, delusion, hallucinations. And as psychosis progresses, it's not something where you can necessarily be like, all right, this is the difference. Here's what's real and here's what's not. Where you might be able to train yourself in early stages of psychosis or early stages of episodic, however you pronounce it, sorry, symptoms. You might be able to generally point those things out to yourself and be like, something doesn't seem right here. Where when the further you go into psychosis, that notion starts to go away. The parts of your brain that actually are able to recognize when something is correct or not correct, or something's out of the ordinary, starts to dissolve. And so that's probably the main thing that wasn't conveyed correctly. I would also say that a lot of the times the voices are more clear and they are actually saying things directly to you that you can understand. However, deeper into psychosis that I go, at least, the more of those voices pop up and the more simultaneously they are. And it's like you can only really focus on one at a time. And so that was to kind of show the overwhelming nature of it, where in the beginning of the video they're more distinctive, and as the video goes on they're more whispering and mumbled, and it's hard to tell what they're saying. You can always tune in, but I feel like for me, the further I go into psychosis, the more I'm trying to tune out altogether, so that way I'm not processing any of the stuff that's going to push me deeper into it. Obviously, though, it can pull you, and it becomes really, really hard to not do that in certain states. I try to keep my environment, my people around me, and like my work schedule and stuff like that, I try to keep it as stress minimal as possible, to try to keep myself in the most stable baseline. But obviously there's people that are in more chaotic environments, there's people that have more things going on in their life, there's people that maybe didn't necessarily get into therapy, or they're not on medication or a treatment plan, and of course they're going to have more psychotic episodes and symptoms than the next person would, who maybe has some of those more grounding, stabilizing aspects. And so for me, I know that when I'm not on medication and times where I haven't been on medication, it's much more common. It's much more back to back. It's not as spread out. Where when I'm on medication and I have a good support group and I have a good stable routine, I would say it's more far and few in between that the full-blown psychotic episodes actually happen. When they do happen, there's certain things that other people can do, in terms of staying calm and just trying to reduce like stimulation to the person who's suffering it, trying to offer like basic decision making that might be able to help them in terms of what they want. Simple choices, do you want a glass of water, do you want to lay down, like different things that are simple that you can maybe walk them through, and they might not even be able to process some of those things in that moment, but it helps to have somebody who's at least sitting with you trying to help. As long as you're not overstimulating them. That's a big thing. I would say for me, personally, grounding techniques that work, I do the finger counting. That is kind of like one of my last results. I find that if I need anything to ground me, it's counting my fingers. Breathing exercises help sometimes, but it depends on the person and the level of awareness of their own bodies and themselves. I find that somewhat regular meditation does help in more stable states. If you're able to meditate and kind of turn inward and learn more about the way your mind operates and the way you think, it can help notice like discrepancies within that when those things aren't acting the way they should within your mind. And just some misconceptions about the video that I wanted to go over was the fact, like I said, that it's not a constant everyday minute to minute thing for most people unless they're actually in a really, really bad situation. Though the fear of those episodes, the fear that it can take a few missteps, or it can take forgetting your medication for a day or two, or it can take getting to, because it is a mood condition as well, it has aspects of a mood disorder. Mania can be a thing. And so if you get too obsessed with something and too into something, that can be a sign that you're going to start pushing yourself towards a more psychotic episode. But these are all things that you're able to determine and live with, and it's not like these things just pop up and you have no knowledge of them. We live with these every day. So we tend to notice our triggers, we tend to try to learn about these things, and we tend to try to prepare other people ahead of time. In the moment, there's not much that any given person can do to stop a psychotic episode unless there's some kind of medication or something like that involved. as a bystander or as a family member, most of it is going to be prevention. It's going to be talking about safety plans beforehand. It's going to be talking about how to handle things beforehand. It's going to be talking about what works and what doesn't, what overstimulates and what doesn't. In the moment, there's not much the person's going to be able to tell you to help because they don't even know what's going to help. This was my first attempt at making this video, or a video like this. Like I said, I've mostly done music. It's been like over 10 years now of me trying to express these things through music, and I feel like I've done an all right job, but I want to try to explore some other areas that can maybe reach out to more people, and it seems like it did exactly that. I know that from the outside, for people that maybe haven't experienced a lot of mental illness or have only seen it from the outside, it can seem hard to believe something that isn't comprehensible that can actually exist and people could function with it. And all I would say is, if you really feel that way, look through the comments and read people's stories, read people's experiences. Actually dive into the human beings that are typing on these keyboards, and if their stories and their words are not enough to convince you that what you saw in that video can be true, like I said, not true for everybody, but it can be that way for many people, at the worst case scenario, then I don't know what else to tell you. At that point, you've got to do some looking inwards. One thing that I do want to look at and spend some time on this channel is a project that I've been working on for about 5 years now, and it's a symbolic mind journal. It's a experiment that I basically set up a couple years ago, planning to try to map out my mind using a symbolic code that I had a journal, and over the period of 16 days, I would journal everything that my mind did, every mood swing, every change in perspective, and I would mark each of these changes by symbols that had a key of what those symbols meant in terms of mood swings, depression, hallucinations, different things that I was able to pinpoint were happening at different states. And over the period of 16 days, I processed all of that. And I'm going to actually have a little overlay or some type of pop-up here that's going to show one of the pages with maybe some of the graphs or some of the information from that journal. But I do want to dive a little deeper into that and maybe talk about it and kind of go over some of what I was trying to do with that journal. One of the things that I did notice within that journal was the progression of overload to chaos to stabilization that happened on repeat. It was a predictable pattern that was able to be documented and put into quantitative and qualitative data, and it's something that hasn't really been done before in that way, and I think it would be interesting to go deeper into. If you guys have any questions about that, anything that you'd want me to go into in terms of that specific experiment, I could make a full video on it. We can make a question and answer, and I could go over more aspects of it. Just let me know what you'd like to know about it. All right, so to wrap it up, like I've said, my main goal here is going to be to expand and to try to bring a different perspective and a different set of tools to bringing awareness to this condition, and to people who can relate to this channel. And I don't want it to just be about mental illness or just about music. I want it to be a combination of the both. I want it to be a place that I can express different aspects of life, different struggles of life, and it's going to have a heavy focus on mental illness and on music, but I'm going to try to incorporate many different things and kind of bring different aspects to this channel. My goal, though, is always to bring awareness and to bring empathy. I never want to bring sensationalism to this stuff. I don't want to make a Hollywood movie, a horror movie out of my experiences. That's not what I'm trying to do. I'm not trying to make entertainment. I'm trying to make something that is informative and that can bring awareness to something that such a small percentage of the population deals with. Even outside of schizophrenia, like that's something that most people are referring to this as, because there's no awareness to schizoaffective. Most people have never heard of it. There's a lot of people that have dealt with or have known people that have dealt with it, but it's just not something that is widely covered and even is researched. So it's something that I want to bring my experience on and my perspective on, and hopefully other people can as well, and that can help widen the level of understanding that we have over this thing. So I want to thank all you guys for your support. Everybody who's been trying to build me up, who's been sending their prayers, who's been sending their thoughts, their wishes, and everybody who just has been supportive and uplifting. It's been great. It's been so much better than I could have imagined. For the people that haven't been, I don't really care. I don't pay attention to it. I'll comment on it sometimes to bring some information to you if I feel like you need it, but I don't really care one way or the other if you're being supportive or not. I just appreciate the people who are. So that's all I got to say about that. I'll keep building with you and all of this on Acclimate Creations as long as you stick around and you want to go on this journey with me. Guys, remember, even in chaos, we can find meaning, and that's going to be kind of the motto of this channel, is that through chaos and in chaos, we can find meaning in it, and we can find ways to help other people and ourselves. So, checking out. You guys have a good one. Peace.